Now, BBC One, even without the Chelsea Flower Show this year, we can still enjoy all the colour.
Hello and welcome to a week of very special programmes. The RHS Chelsea Flower Show may have been cancelled, but fear not. We're bringing you the most exquisite show gardens and stunning plant displays to give inspiration, ideas and practical advice to help you recreate the flower show gardens in your own garden this summer. And I'm not going to be alone. Along with our family of experts, every day this week, we'll be tackling a different way to make the most of your garden, whatever its size. And today, we're kicking off with one of the most important elements of Chelsea: how to make the most of colour. Here's what's coming up. Rachel de Tame is gleaning the best tips and advice from the glorious show gardens.
Over the years, Chelsea's given us some amazing ideas for colourful planting designs. I'll show you how to copy them with just a few plants.
And I'll be talking to Toby Buckland down in his gorgeous garden in Devon. He'll be answering questions for the Chelsea Clinic and giving ideas to make your garden as special as it can be.
Well, spring has sprung here in Devon. Even the weeds look good, Nicki.
And the Rich brothers, Harry and David, are currently living together with their families deep in the Welsh countryside. They'll be showing how you can get the Chelsea look in your garden. All week, we'll be celebrating the best of Chelsea's smaller gardens. As their size is closer to the majority of British back gardens, a little bit like mine, they can be a bit more relatable. Today, Toby is showing how Chelsea makes colour really stand out.
Some plants, although small, are hugely influential. Now in the Warner Edwards garden is this Atroplex. It's a rangy self-sower and it's dotted right through the garden. Now it has carob-coloured leaves and it makes its neighbours look brighter. With the contrast, the low light of the Atroplex, they really pop. And it's a trick to remember if you're planting up hanging baskets, beds, pots, you name it. Purple really brings out the best in everything else. In a situation like this, a cottage garden, well, calendulas might be king and roses royalty, but purple has the power. Aces are big personalities, although many of the trees are small. And Ishihara Koizuki used them to great effect in his artisan garden. Now, it's not just the palm-shaped leaves that give them their eastern vibe. The branches are horizontal and the foliage is held in tufts out on the end, much the same as those trees on my mum's willow pattern plates. Now, as a group of plants, acers are great small garden trees. They like the shelter, the semi-shade. And they've got 3 seasons of interest. We all know they've got good autumn colour, but the young foliage, when it opens, it's a welcome spring green, zingy and acidic. And then in summer, the leaves cast beautiful shadows. This is a variety called Acer palmatum dissectum, and it's probably the best for growing in a pot. So you can have that oriental vibe, even if you don't have much space. Just because you've got a small garden, it doesn't mean that you can't think big. And that's what Chris Beardshaw has done in his design. Now, you see this cherry tree? It's about 6 metres tall, and it's in a border no wider than I am tall. And that's because of a clever horticultural technique, which is during summer, the lower branches have been cut off. It's been crown lifted, in other words. So the canopy's still there, providing blossom and autumn leaf colour, but you're not losing light at ground level. And this means you can grow trees in the smallest of spaces. But the pink elephant in this garden room is, of course, this, rhododendron fascination. It's a cumulus dome of blooms, just glorious. But it's got evergreen leaves, so it looks good all year round. Now, if you had a Lilliputian front garden, just one of these plants would be a treatment that suits it. And that's because this rhododendron has character. And sometimes in small spaces, character is just as important as size.
Such beautiful gardens and such great ideas to make an impact in a smaller space with colour. Now, myself and David actually started our Chelsea career creating a small garden in the artisan section.
We did, and we've definitely still got a soft spot for them, haven't we?
Yeah.
What's so special about them is that attention to detail. They're that much smaller, but it means that every inch is really important.
Now, a lot of us have small gardens, and that's a great benefit because the smaller the garden, the more concentrated the colour becomes. So when you're choosing plants, think about what colour you want to be displayed. But not only that, think about where the colour is going to be placed. Now, obviously we have bulbs and herbaceous perennials that are going to filter through the floor, but think about the rest of the garden. Now you have climbers that can nicely knit together the boundary walls. You've got trees and shrubs which have blossom and autumn colour. So think three-dimensionally. Think about how colour makes you feel and how it changes the garden through the seasons. It's only a benefit. It's all about choosing the right colour for you.
We're going to go take a look at some of the Chelsea show gardens that we've seen over the years that are packed with take-home ideas. I'm in the Green Fingers Charity Garden, designed by Kate Gould. And there's so much in this garden to inspire you with your own designs. And straight away, it feels so calm and so tranquil. And we have the colour scheme to thank for that. We've got gorgeous greys, so many shades of green, we've got soft whites and mellow yellow. So it's so important. If you want to create an atmosphere in your garden, you're not only thinking about the colours of the plants, but you're actually thinking about the entirety of the garden, all about the materials as well. And one material that I really like in this garden is actually the tiles on the walls there. And what's so nice about these tiles is that you can get any real colour. So in theory, you can create any atmosphere that you'd like. And some of the plants that we have here that are easy to maintain are things like geraniums, aquiledias. We've got some grasses like Stipa tenuissima. They're quite simple, they look after themselves, and they give you loads of interest throughout the year. And also, the seating as well in this garden is great fun. This hanging apple, I've just got to sit in it, haven't I, really?
Now, we can't all build an elevated platform like this within our garden, but more often than not, you'll have a balcony space you want to look beautiful. Now, with the Stipa gigantica and the irises here, it creates a beautiful feeling that threads from the lower levels. But if you want to add a little bit of height into your terrace, then birch is a great idea. First of all, it's got a very light canopy that allows light to filter through, but it has a lovely bit of autumn colour. But then if you want a bit of evergreen structure, we've got pine and we've got arbutus here. Very tough, resilient trees that will really deal with an elevated roof terrace. And it's all about creating structure, a lovely cosy space for you out of the wind and somewhere you can really relax. And I've got my eye here, it's a lovely bean bag, and I think it's nice to have seating sometimes nice and low so you can be set amongst the canopy of the trees.
What a lovely garden. The greens and the whites made it feel so tranquil and calm. Fancy some more plant inspiration? Well, the Great Pavilion in the Chelsea Flower Show is the place to go for nearly 3 acres of stunning flowers, incredible displays and exhibitors from all over the world. Francis Tophill hunted out those colourful garden classics we all love.
Here in the Great Pavilion, you're never short of some classic garden flowers. When it comes to garden classics, nothing is more classic than the rose. Whole gardens have been built around them, and I think no garden is complete without one. And here on the Peterbilt stand, the scent is absolutely incredible. And one of their best-selling roses is called Comte de Chambord. It's a Portland rose from 1860, so it's a really old variety, and it has an incredible damask scent. Lovely pink flowers, and it's a really compact form, so perfect if you have a smaller garden. Chelsea is always a showcase for some amazing spring flowers, but for me, a quintessentially classic spring flower has to be irises. They're so varied, but here at Todd's Botanics, you can see the flag irises at their best, from the lovely deep purple of the sable through to the palest yellow of Benton's primrose and everything in between. It really is a varied flower. But remember, if you want the best flowers from it, make sure you plant it in a sunny spot. A perennial favourite of mine, and looking its best in spring, and therefore here at the Chelsea Flower Show, is the peony. The Binny plant stand is absolutely brimming with incredible specimens. Red Charm is a classic. It shows all the classic signs and things that we love in a peony, from the big, lovely round red buds to the beautiful open flowers. People often worry that peonies can be a bit challenging, but there are 3 golden rules to having lovely big flowers. Firstly, keep them well watered between April and September. Even when they finish flowering, they're forming next year's buds, so that's really important. The second rule is never plant them too deeply. They like a little bit of sun to bake them so that they'll flower well. And thirdly, never plant them in the shade. If you stick to those 3 things, I think you can agree that they're worth the extra bit of work, and you'll have big, happy, healthy peonies.
Oh, one of my favourite flowers. I love peonies. The pavilion really is stunning and so colourful. I'm limited in what I can do in my garden, but Rachel Detame is at home in Gloucestershire with loads more ideas for colourful plants to brighten up your garden this summer.
Nicki, I'm in a part of my garden that has lovely dappled shade. I think it's easy to get masses of full-on colour when you're in bright sunshine, but most of us have shady areas to deal with as well. And I've chosen this classic collection of 3 plants. There's an Aquilegia here, beautiful ferny foliage for months on end, and then it's special because it's got really upright stems and the flowers look up at you. It's called Winky Rose, and I love that dusky pink colouring. And it's sort of echoed here in this classic, the Bleeding Heart. Just look at the way that those flowers, they're pendulous and they hang off the arching stems. It's so elegant. And these are positioned around a hellebore. Now that's actually rather gone over, but you still get what's left of those lovely, deep, dusky purple flowers. And so the whole thing sort of works together. I'm really pleased with this area. But even more exciting is anticipating what new varieties of plants will be revealed. So here are just a few of those that we'll be seeing much more of in the future. This pink David Austin rose called Silas Marner was due to be revealed at Chelsea this year. It's an unfussy rose with soft mid-pink petals which are pale on the reverse and fade at the edges. Held on red stems, the medium-sized cupped blooms have relaxed, almost ruffled petals around the attractive button eye. It's a healthy, abundant variety with good repeat flowering and is perfect for a shady spot where those pink flowers would really sing out. I also can't resist the delicate peachy pink iris Ballet du Bolshoi, which was going to be announced at Chelsea by Cailleur, because I used to be a ballet dancer and the shade reminds me exactly of tutus and ballet shoes. Well, it's the result of breeding 2 magnificent pink parents, June Krause and Hortensia Rose, which has produced this intensely pink flower with the purest of coral beards. I absolutely love it. And this gorgeous blue clematis, Olympia, was also going to be on display at Chelsea this year for the first time. The colour blue is rare to find in nature, so it's always a popular choice, and this variety will bring plenty of interest to your garden as it repeat flowers from late spring to late summer and again in the autumn. They're all beautiful. So now the big question, where to put them?
Well, you don't even need a garden to be inspired by Chelsea. Every year, Simon Lycett aims to demystify the delightful art of floristry. And while my skills are, well, let's put it this way, they are improving. One of my favourite tips from Simon was when he showed us how to create a stunning, colourful display and had an even bigger challenge than normal, trying to turn the man who controls the Chelsea site traffic into a flower arranger.
Mr. Lycett, what are we going to be creating today?
Because we've got 2 pairs of nice big gents' hands, we're each going to be creating a wonderful wild tied bunch.
Now, I don't think this is going to be easy.
No,
So you've
Steve,
got
how are you feeling?
an assortment of
nervous.
flowers. So
Yes.
grab some. The hydrangea are great to start with. So
Right.
start and sort of use your hand almost as a vase, and then
Right.
start and insert different stems.
Right.
Different heights, different lengths for a little bit
Okay.
of in and out. And we've gone quite flamboyant because I understand, Steve, that in addition to a bit of arranging, there's another artistic side to you, isn't there?
See, this rumour has got out. We think you might be a thespian. There might be a little bit of a pantomime dame inside.
There certainly is. I play pantomime dame every year.
Us seeing you here directing the traffic week
Yes.
in, week out, because it's such a big build-up to Chelsea,
Yes, yes.
and then obviously at the end as well. It's hard to believe.
I know it is hard to believe. I know.
Look at these magnificent dahlias as well.
Simon, how's he doing?
He's doing brilliantly well. I think we need a bit more wildness, a little bit... Oh, there we go, with the allium by the metre.
Look, he's getting very... You're getting quite courageous
I
here,
need
aren't
some
you?
help here.
The joy of this is that you can use flowers from your garden, foliage from your garden, and then augment it with some stems that you've bought from your local flower shop.
Guess what we have in store for you here? Your own personal vase, Steve.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Simon, what do we think? It's just about to go in to the traffic cone.
I think chop through those stems. I think as an assistant, your nafas status, Nikki, has come to the fore, and I think let's see it arrive
Yes.
in its vase. Go for it,
Here we
Steve,
go.
let's see in all its glory.
Oh.
How are we doing?
There we go.
Go on. Well, do you know what? I think for someone who's done it properly on his
about
own,
that?
first attempt,
How about that?
there!
I'm going to prove to Simon I have learnt something. I was listening. Now, I was lucky enough to get these flowers a few days ago, so I put them in some water. They've had a good drink, and I'm going to show you a few tricks to extend the life of your display. Start off by taking the stem and cutting it at a 45-degree angle. Just like that, however long you want it for your vase. Take off any of the extra greenery. This stops the stem sitting at the bottom of the vase, and it creates a larger surface so it can absorb more water. Do it with all of them. Again, take away the excess greenery. Just cut it on the angle, just like that. Now, for cut flowers to survive, they need sugar for nourishment and something acidic like an aspirin to help them absorb the water. So do add a couple of aspirins and a teaspoon of sugar to the vase. Stir it all in, and that should give them a few more days. Now, if you can, every few days, do change the water. It makes such a difference. And also, getting these lovely peonies out, if you can, retrim them, same way, at an angle, and you'll get more from your flowers. And also, keep them away from heat and even fruit, as gases are released from fruit and it can make the flowers go off a little bit faster. Now, it's not coming along too badly. It's work in progress, but we're getting there. But the one thing we do know is that they're going to last a lot longer. Chelsea is a magnet for passionate gardeners and plant lovers from all walks of life, like top model and presenter Kelly Brook, who came to the show to get advice and inspiration on growing her colourful flowers at home.
Well, it didn't take long to find some inspiration. I absolutely love this plant. This is a Camassia, and I have an area in my garden of a long grass meadow, and I think incorporating these would just give it a bit of height and a bit of colour that it needs. I just need to know which varieties to grow in that situation. Stella, you're the Camassia queen. You're exactly the person I need to speak to. I'm absolutely in love with this plant. Does it work in the way like most bulbs work? When they stop flowering, you have to wait for the foliage to die back and then cut them? Because I think we cut my meadow like the end of August.
If you cut your meadow in August, that's absolutely perfect, because yes, you do need to let the foliage die down so the bulb is fed for the following season so it can bulk up and be fabulous next year as well.
And in terms of a meadow, I would really love a tall variety. I know you have some dwarf varieties as well.
So the shorter ones I'd suggest if you've got at the front of the entrance to the meadow, and then into the meadow you can graduate the heights and the colours from the palest ice blue to the deepest indigo blue of Camassia quamasherian. And then you've got some rare colours like the pale pink here.
Oh,
what's not to love?
I know. I want a whole bag of bulbs. They're absolutely
You're on.
gorgeous. Now, Alec, I have a vegetable garden and I really want to incorporate a cutting area. I really want to have flowers that are going to be good in a big open space. It's got full sun, I've got clay soil. What would be the perfect variety of peony to grow there?
Well, Kelly, it sounds like you've got the absolute perfect conditions for peonies. Coral sunset here.
Yeah, I love that.
That's the one. Beautiful pink flower, fades to coral and then to lemon. You've got this wonderful, huge bomb-shaped flower here, which is red charm.
That's
that makes
stunning.
an excellent cut flower.
Look at that.
Really excellent.
That is a showstopper, isn't it?
And for a later flowering peony, Shirley Temple at the front there, the big white one. Beautifully scented, later to flower. That means you can have cut flowers in your garden all season.
So when would I know when to cut the flower?
Well, when your peony is budded like this and it's soft like a marshmallow,
Yeah.
that's when you want to pick it.
Okay.
Cut it and put it straight into a bucket of water. They're very thirsty. It will drink up that water, and then you've got 24, 48 hours before it opens, and a cut flower peony should last about a week in a vase.
They're absolutely stunning. Chelsea's given me so much inspiration. Well, I can't wait to get home and get planting. Thank you so much, Alec.
Thank you.
Kelly really is so passionate about her plants and her garden. She was so inspired by her trip to Chelsea, like a child in a sweet shop. But how can you not be enthused by what you see at the show? Arit met designer Graham Boddle to see how his unlikely source of inspiration made the perfect companion to a range of colourful plants.
Hi Graham,
Hiya.
good to see you again.
Nice to see
you
you
okay?
again. Yeah,
good.
good, cheers, thank you.
So tell me about the concept of this garden.
Yeah, the concept of the garden is how anybody really could take industrial kind of architectural elements and use them in a way in a garden that you can make seats or focal points or structures or lighting.
Where did you get the inspiration for the garden?
Well, we live in an area where there's lots of quarries, so the starting point was the inspection tower that I've used as like a lighting rig for the garden.
The planting scheme really sits well against all of the rusted elements.
Yeah, I think that I was looking for the texture of the plant, but also kind of picking up those bronze and russet tones in the rusty materials. So the planting palette was quite easy to do that because of all the rusty gear that I'd got, and also there's a few flecks of oranges and yellows in the materials. So again, referencing that in the planting was quite an easy thing to do.
The use of getting water in the garden, this old digger bucket.
Yeah, I wanted to give the appearance that the garden was built around the bucket, so the bucket's kind of sunken in the garden, but it's a great viewpoint from the bench looking onto the bucket. Quite a few people have said about putting some tadpoles in it, but I'm not sure you're allowed to do that.
I'm sure they might find their way in there at some point.
Yeah.
And now it's all done, you've finished the garden, you've got the medal, how are you feeling?
Yeah, silver gilt medal, I was happy with that, so just chill out and relax for a bit.
Yeah, I would say to do.
Have a few beers.
Yeah, good for you.
Nice one.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What I really liked about Graham's garden is that he didn't use the traditional pinks and mauves of Chelsea, but he went for something more intriguing, and that's what I want to take inspiration from and use in my garden. One of the plants that he had in there was the Candelabra primula inveru. Very pretty little flower, very dainty. It sits about 1/2 metre to 1 metre above its foliage, so it looks very grand, but it can't sit in my garden, unfortunately, because it needs damp, moist, boggy conditions. But what I was thinking I can have as a replacement for next spring is a Tulipa Cairo. That's going to bring an orange, rich tone in, those lovely bronze outer petals and a deeper bronze inside. And I think it will sit very well with my darker foliage leaf plants that I've got dotted around the garden. I'm just going to bring your attention to the Acer here. Acer palmatum work really well against the greens of this hydrangea, and also the fact that I get a gorgeous leaf contrast. It does equally work with the Pittosporum because there's a dark stem on this, a much lighter leaf, But there's a very, very good relationship between these two plants. But if you are going to have darker leaf shrubs in your garden, make sure you think about where the light's coming in from, because what you don't want to miss out on is how the light bounces through and picks up the orange coppery tones that are within those leaves.
One colourful plant you tend to see a lot at Chelsea are lupins, mainly because of the time of year. But how easy is it to bring these stunners for their big week? We found out at a dedicated grower in the West Country.
Lupin is such a statement plant. It really has impact. I just love the colours. The scent is lovely and they're fun to grow. My name's Sarah Connellbeer of West Country Nurseries in North Devon. We specialise in lupins and we have the National Collection of lupins here, which I've bred and grown for about 20 years. I started just with a few seeds. We've bred our own varieties and grown fields of them to get good selections. And now we're at this point where we have our National Collection of lupins and we're exhibiting at Chelsea. As long as you don't live on chalk or limey soil, lupin should grow quite happily for you. It's not a difficult plant, and obviously it's a lovely cottage garden traditional plant as well. It'll give huge impact to your border in May, June time. And there's a huge range of colours, of course, yellows, purples, oranges and reds. Lupins like an open, sunny site, ideally, but if you try them on a north-facing wall, you'll just find they flower a bit later. Obviously, they like a little bit of moisture, but they're not a plant that needs a lot of fertiliser because they make their own nitrogen from nitrogen-fixing nodules on their roots. Lupins are really hardy plants and they're really not that difficult to grow, but of course when the new foliage is just coming up, the slugs and snails might be sharpening their knives and forks. So you just have to watch out for that. I've been worried that it's been so cold, but now it's actually warmed up a lot, so I'm going to give them a little bit extra water as they are really thirsty plants. So I need to think about which plants I'm going to take to Chelsea. I think this one is absolutely perfect now, but it's probably going to have gone over for Chelsea, and the blooms will have faded. Now this one, on the other hand, is absolutely perfect. It's got 7 flower spikes, and they're all beautifully triangulated with perfect tips on every one. So I reckon that one may well go to the show. I really hope when people see the lupins and the display en masse that they'll just fall in love with them all over again. There's lots and lots of colours there for them to enjoy, and there really is a lupin for everyone.
They really are beautiful, aren't they, Toby? But talking about beautiful, look at your garden. I thought we were in Chelsea for a moment.
Well, spring has sprung here in Devon. Even the weeds look good, Nikki.
It looks amazing. You put me to shame. Well, you've obviously chosen the best bit. Any lupins in there?
Actually, I don't. But I do have a cottage garden charmer that does the same job, but slugs like less. Do you grow foxgloves?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that because I love lupins and foxgloves. I love the structure, I love the colour.
Yeah.
But I don't have any at the moment. But should I be planting some? Is now a good time?
Well, it is a good time. You can get them, as long as you keep them watered through the summer, they'll flower for you next year, or you might get a few spikes this summer. The thing about them is, though, that they break from the normal shape of cottage garden perennials. Most of them, if you think about astrantias or cranesbills, even roses, they have dome-shaped tops to them. Well, foxgloves and lupins, because they've got spikes, they add something different, a different type of shape, and that's really important visually. This is a variety, it's newly planted. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'll get some flowers this year, called Pam's Choice. It's got purple throats, just like the hedgerow variety, but white flowers. And so it really glows in dappled shade. The thing that really interests me, though,
is why they have spires in the first place. Lupins and foxgloves are both pollinated by bees, and they grow amongst grasses. And the clever thing about them is, as the blooms open, the individual flowers, they rise up the spires, staying just above the burgeoning neighbouring plants. And in the sweet spot, where the warm air is, where the bees like to fly. So don't just have them at the back of the border, have them in the middle. They'll add a bit of colour where it's unexpected. And there'll be food for the eye, as well as food for the bees.
Sounds gorgeous. Do you know what? I am sold. Toby, thank you very much.
Cheers, Nikki.
And Rachel de Tame has some more great planting ideas for us. She used the show gardens as inspiration to take just a handful of plants that work together to create some plant recipes. Today, ice cream pastels.
Sometimes the very best part of a meal is the dessert, and today I'm going to create an ice cream sundae from plants filled with delicious creaminess and lots of beautiful pastels. Although I'm looking for lots of softness and fluidity in this recipe, I also need a plant that's really going to ground the whole combination. I've chosen this Regerzia podophylla, which has these wonderful leaves. Now, when they first emerge, they're lovely in bronze, and then they green up during the summer and become beautifully coloured again as we get towards autumn. And they send up these plumes of flowers that are very feathery and ethereal, almost like the froth on a milkshake. And it's a plant that likes quite a moist situation and semi-shade. So I think this is an excellent first ingredient. Equally at home in a nice moisture-retentive soil in semi-shade is Trollius. Now, this one's particularly caught my eye. It's a new variety called Dancing Flame, absolutely beautiful. Now, they're members of the Ranunculaceae family, so buttercups, and you can tell that from the shape of the foliage as well as the flowers. And they come in a range of colours from sort of bordering on orange through to pale lemony yellows. But this one reminds me of a ball of mango sorbet. I found my perfect ice cream sundae here on the Laurent Perrier garden, and the designer is Luciano Giubili, an Italian, the home of gelati, so that's a perfect fit. Now, right in the middle here, the Regerzia, these lovely plumes of flowers, also in a lovely soft pink in the middle. We've got the Trollius on that side, and here the flowers are a paler lemon colour, which is so fresh and pretty. And of course the Digitalis, this is also an Italian form. It's Digitalis lutea with rather smaller, more delicate flowers. The whole thing is soft, delicious, and I think absolutely beautiful.
I love those beautiful pastel shades, and hot off the press, there are a few new flowers being released this year in similar hues. This lovely late-growing, spring-flowering thalictrum is called chantilly. These woodland and shade-loving plants normally have cream flowers, but this lovely pale pink lavender variety was going to be introduced at Chelsea this year. With masses of blue or pink flowers, depending on the type of soil you have, this new hydrangea is called French Bolero, and thanks to its unique habit, every bud, including all the side shoots, will produce flowers, so you're guaranteed a dazzling display all summer long. Hanging baskets have made a real comeback in recent years. I must admit, I've got a soft spot for them. Francis has a suggestion for a colourful contemporary display that will wow your neighbours.
This is my step-by-step guide to creating the perfect hanging basket. Now, hanging baskets dry out really quickly, so my first tip is to line it with something. It's just a compost bag I've cut up, and that will help it hold on to its moisture. Next up, I need to cut some holes. Best to use trailing plants on the side, so here I've got some bacopa and some lovely trailing nepeta. It's important not to damage the foliage of these plants, so my top tip is to wrap them in paper that will protect them as you push them through those holes. Now I just need a little bit of compost to top that up. There. Next, to add a centrepiece. Now I am torn between this euphorbia or the pelargonium. That's the one. And now, as a finishing touch, I'm going to add some colour to this with some verbenas and some petunias. And I'm just tucking in a few more trailing plants at the top just to soften that edge and really bulk it up. And there. It really is that easy to create a hanging basket that will just get better and better.
Chelsea is always a riot of colour, but one of the most unusual gardens was Manoj Molde's Under the Mexican Sky, which added colour in a very different way. Manoj, today I think is the perfect day to be viewing your garden.
It absolutely is. When I started designing this garden, I said if the sun shines in its full glory, it'll be absolutely perfect.
And it is today. And what a day for me to be standing here with you, just admiring it. So when you start the whole process, you know, what were you influenced by? You know, was it the Mexican design or somewhere you've been on a holiday?
I was actually influenced by the modernist Mexican architect Luis Barragan. I saw his work, immediately attracted to the colour. I have Indian ancestry, born in Kenya, surrounded by beautiful women in gorgeous saris. Subconsciously, it was the colour that I was attracted to. Part of the planting scheme was actually to show Luis Barragan's life. He struggled to become a recognised architect, but also what I wanted to do was introduce plants in here that people can actually take home and grow themselves as well.
And the architectural structures of the plant, especially behind you in the cacti, it really works, doesn't it?
It definitely does, and there's that whole hierarchy in this garden where you've got the trees, you've got the specimen plants, and then you've got this lovely soft planting that weaves through all the lovely structure, and it works perfectly well.
The bursts of colour through the greens and the greys. Well, it certainly works, and congratulations on your Silver Guild medal yesterday, and we are loving your garden. Thank you. I loved that garden. I was really inspired by it. What do you think? Add a little bit more colour to mine? I don't think I'll be going for the pink wall, though. Not quite yet. Someone else with a passion for colour is presenter Gabby Rosalyn, who last year popped into Chelsea to have a chat with Angelica.
See, I love flowers. Flowers make me feel happy, make me feel good. I love colour, and I walk everywhere. So I walk about 10 miles a day, and the flowers are the thing that sort of take me to each thing. Oh, there's another flower, there's another flower. Because you've sort of become a social media gardener, I'd say, because I do follow you, and you put these beautiful pictures up all the time you see it. It's colour and flowers. Gardener is the different, you see, now, my mum, my late mum, she'll be thinking, what are you talking about? Gardening is not my thing. I can't garden. I've got some fruit trees that aren't fruiting. I've got some plants that aren't planting. So you have a few little gardening issues, so you're in the right place. But what is it about Chelsea that you just love, that you love, it brings you back? The flowers, the colour, the air. The air's fresher, because I do worry about what we're doing to our planet. And the fact that everybody's very aware of it, especially this year, I feel. And there's also that aspect of mindfulness, which is so important now, isn't it? Well, that's what I do with my walking. And I think it's not only good for your body and your heart, and your soul, but it's really good for your mental health. And seeing colour around and seeing the plants, and when you're walking, even if you're in the middle of a city, there are plants and there are flowers, and that means things are growing and renewing. I love it. So which garden has caught your eye here at Chelsea? I'm so pleased you asked. Okay, the Camfed garden, the Zimbabwe garden. My father was born in Zimbabwe, and I've been every year of my life. It's a very, very special place to me. And when I turned up there the other day, I was so moved, because the earth is like Zimbabwe. Then there brought you back to... Oh, completely. It's beautiful. Back memories, yeah. Really, really beautiful. And I think
their philosophy about educating all the women over in Africa, taking them out of poverty. I think it was amazing. It blew my mind. I loved it there, really did.
It's stunning, isn't it? It's stunning.
A few weeks ago, we asked on social media for any gardening questions you might have. Harry, David and Toby, are you ready to reopen the Chelsea Clinic?
Oh, yeah, bring it on.
Excellent. Right, first question comes from Sonia. She says, I have a large agapanthus in a pot. The leaves have not really died down from last year. Should I leave them or should I cut them back? Well, I must admit, I've never tried growing an agapanthus, but it is a gorgeous, colourful plant. Why aren't Sonia's flowering, boys? What's going wrong?
Well, it sounds like your plant is possibly a tender evergreen, which is the reason why it still has its leaves, so it's definitely best not to cut them off.
And the best way to care for them is actually to dig them up every year and position them or locate them into a shed or inside your house. It needs to be light, it needs to be cool, and it also needs to be frost-free. And if it's in a pot, then basically you just need to give it some winter protection.
And then when the weather truly warms up and there's no more risk of frost, you can bring them back out. And then when they're coming into flower, you can feed them with a general purpose feed and really boost their blooms so that bring them back to their colourful selves.
Hope that helps, Sonia. Next, we've heard from Virginia Evnett in Kent, and she's got a problem with her passion flower. This is what one looks like when it's healthy. However, she says hers is, well, it's looking a little bit weary, and though she's had it for 5 years, she hasn't pruned it once. She's wondering, Toby, is it time for her to give it a haircut? What do you think?
Do you know, Virginia, I had the same thing happen to a passion flower of mine. One of the stems dies off, the others remain good. And the name of the game for you is to get up there with a pair of secateurs and thin out all the old and dead wood and then train in some new from the bottom. A little bit of TLC wouldn't go amiss, perhaps some compost and feed. And just one thing, when you're pruning, make sure someone's holding your ladder.
There you go. Virginia, you now know what to do. Finally, this one is for Harry and David. Maria Price needs help with her new border, which is shady and it's also a little bit damp. A bit like my border here, to be fair. She'd like to know if there are any shrubs, perennials that have colour that she can use in that border.
Well, Maria, there are plenty of plants for that situation. And a couple of mine and Dave's favourites would be Actea and Aruncus, lovely large statement plants which have a white flower that just lightens up the shadier spots. And shrub-wise, you can't really go wrong with using Cornus. There's a range of different colours you can have. Midwinter Fire is a beautiful red, and it just adds that bit of vibrancy in the wintertime to your borders.
One plant that definitely finds its way into all our planting schemes is Persicaria. Now, we absolutely love it, and it's got a gorgeous range of colours from whites, pinks and reds. It'd be great for adding that little bit of colour in summer.
Oh, thank you, boys. Helpful advice as ever, and we look forward to hearing from you tomorrow with our Chelsea Clinic.
Cheers, Nikki. Bye-bye.
Last night, Sophie and Joe launched the vote for the RHS BBC People's Choice of the Decade. All 10 gardens are on our website, bbc.co.uk/Chelsea. The vote is open now and closes at 11 tonight, so you've only got a few hours left. And that's all we have time for today. A huge thanks to all the families of our presenters who've been holding cameras and juggling microphones so we can bring you this programme. We're very, very grateful. And we'll be back tomorrow when we'll be looking at gardens and plants that help you make the most of the space in your garden. Until then, bye-bye.